So are you ready for some tricks, treats, candy? Maybe all three, neither three. I don't know. But either way, we're here to talk about week 8 of the 2023 NFL season. Maybe we'll get all three of those things on this pre-Halloween weekend that could be a scare or maybe a treat for any of the teams that are playing this weekend. But before we get into the swing of things, talking about the games that are to come, let's talk about the teams that are going on bye-bye for 1 week and then coming back from their vacay. So let's look at that list, shall we? I think I put it somewhere here. Oh, here it is. Yeah, there are no teams going on vacay this week. There's no bye-bye for them, sending them on their way because every team is playing to get that trick or that treat this weekend. So that being said, let's talk about the games that are to come. And we already got one under the books, and that was the Thursday night game only on Amazon Prime Video for that $15.99 a month, pal, as the Buffalo Bills, Gabe Davis, and Dalton Kincaid each notched a touchdown catch from Josh Allen, who also rushed for one himself, as the Bills had to survive a Hail Mary scare that the Tampa Bay Bucks could have had, but they just didn't, as the Bills survived the Bucks 24-18. Now, let's get into the actual preview itself, shall we? Starting with the Sunday slate of games in the early morning portion, as the Houston Texans at 3-3 take on the Carolina Panthers 1-5. Both of these teams are coming off their bye weeks, and granted enough, this is a battle between the top two picks in this past year's draft. So CJ Stroud going one-on-one, pal, with Bryce Young. But as we reach towards the kind of halfway point of the season, which will be next week, this matchup may not be too as enticing. Why do I say that? Well, on one corner, you have a second overall pick who's already looking promising. Meanwhile, on the other corner, you have a first overall pick who's kind of going through those rookie pains, and the supporting cast is not really helping him. So, yeah, it's kind of a matchup of, where it could really be going, especially coming off the bye week for both of them. So I'm going to go with the Texans in this one. Then you have the LA Rams at 3-4, coming off a bad loss, taking on the Dallas Cowboys at 4-2, coming off their bye week. So the Rams, they have decent pieces on both sides of the ball, but the execution is just not there to finish drives. So even with a new receiving connection in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they just can't find ways to get those points on the board and gain the first downs to get the ball rolling on offense. Meanwhile, for the Dallas Cowboys, they were last back in action in week 6 against the LA Chargers. There were some flashes here and there, bouncing back from that horrendous loss to the 49ers. At least not horrendous for certain fans out there. But for Dallas, coming off the bye week, they're now trying to look and regenomize themselves and try to make themselves an actual playoff contender, but we will see about that. But for in this games and purposes, I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this game. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings at 3-4, taking on the 2-4 Green Bay Packers in an NFC North matchup. The Vikings got the upset in week number 7 against the San Francisco 49ers, but the Packers, man, they had another stinker. They had 2 weeks to prepare, but yeah, there was nothing there against the Denver Broncos. And they're really struggling, looking for answers to help Jordan Love on offense, who also can't help himself with the turnovers. Meanwhile, for the Vikings, they did not turn the ball over other than the opening drive interception against San Francisco. The important thing is, though, they managed to protect the football. So they look to keep that going on the road against a Green Bay team that really needs to get things going to keep their season alive. So I'm going to go with the Vikings, though. The New Orleans Saints at 3-4 take on the also 3-4 Indianapolis Colts. Both of these teams coming off brutal losses. For the Colts, though, that was a really rotten loss, especially considering it was basically a 2-on-1 handicap match with the refs being on the Browns' side at the very end. But there were some bright spots in that game that they're going to hope and carry into this game against New Orleans, who are pretty much getting just as expected with Derek Carr on offense at this point, and that is mid. They're getting mid results, and Derek Carr's getting angry at his offense for whatever reason. So I'm going to go with the Colts in this game. The New England Patriots at 2-5 take on the 5-2 Miami Dolphins in a rematch of Week 2. So the Miami Dolphins won that Week 2 matchup on a Sunday night back in Week 2. But for the Patriots, they're coming off an upset win over Buffalo last week, and that was mainly in part to actually both sides of the ball playing pretty well, especially on offense. Mac Jones had probably the best game of his season, getting that last-second touchdown to Mike Gesicki, and now they're hoping to carry that over on the road and show some signs of life in their season. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, they're looking to bounce back from another bad loss to legit competition in the Philadelphia Eagles. So they got to bounce back here because last time they faced the Patriots, they showed some. The Patriots showed some fight. Now in this rematch, eventually at some point, you got to show you can beat legit competition. The Patriots are at this point, but any given Sunday, right? So I'm gonna go with Miami in this game. The New York Jets at 3-3 take on the 2-5 New York Giants in a battle of New York that happens every 4 years. The Jets were on a bye week last week, but last time we saw them, they got an upset over Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. And for the Giants, they beat the Washington Commanders minus Daniel Jones on the big blue side. So for the Jets, coming off their bye week, they're hoping for some kind of turnaround after their upset over Philadelphia. But of course, that starts on the offense. Let's see how Zach Wilson pans out after the bye week. And then for the Giants, they're hopeful they can get Daniel Jones back, but more importantly, do better on offense. They're just going to have to contend with that ferocious gangrene defense, and that might be too much for them to overcome. And so I'm going to go with the Jets. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 5-2 take on the 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jaguars, even though they got the win over the Saints on that Thursday night game, they could still use some help on defense, especially in closing out games. And for the Steelers, they finally showed some life on Matt Canada's offense. So for those of you still blaming Canada. So now maybe it's time to execute. Maybe it's time to finally execute with consistency. Let's see if they can continue that here. But I'm going with the Jaguars. The Atlanta Falcons at 4-3 take on the Tennessee Titans at 2-4. Even though the Falcons beat the Bucs last week, there were so many instances where Desmond Ridder cost them the game. Like nearly cost them the game. They turned it over 3 times. He fumbled it 3 times, and yet they still won the game. That is going to be a major problem. Like Desmond Ridder's fumbles, interceptions has cost the Falcons games that they could have won. So the Falcons really have to help Desmond Ridder cut back on his turnovers. Maybe that starts here with the Tennessee Titans game, but I don't know. Speaking of the Titans, they're coming off a bye from that London game against Baltimore, where they almost got the win, but they just couldn't finish it because Ryan Tannehill got injured, and Malik Willis, not having that experience in an actual game, like not many of them at least, he just couldn't finish the story, that story. So anyway, the Titans are actually still undecided at the time I'm recording this, whether Malik Willis or Will Levis, the rookie second rounder for this year's draft, is going to start this game. So yeah, Titans have a decision to make on who's going to be the starting quarterback for Tennessee. But for this attendance purposes, because of that, I'm going to go with Atlanta in this game. The Philadelphia Eagles at 5-1 take on the Washington Commanders at 3-4 in a rematch of I think it was week 4 that these two teams faced off. But nonetheless, when these two teams faced off, Washington really pushed Philadelphia to the limit. They could have won that game, but they just fell short in that game that went to a field goal in overtime. So Eagles are really doing pretty well for themselves on both sides of the ball, despite some miscues from Jalen Hurts. He's starting the ball a little bit more, but other than that, they're playing near perfect football. And showing everyone that, hey, even though we lost the Super Bowl last year, we're making a case to finish the story this year. Meanwhile, for Washington, Sam Howell's playing pretty decent, but the problem is, he struggles with holding the ball for too long, but that's part of the reason why he's getting sacked. The main reason why he's getting sacked is his offensive line is still a sack of shit. His offensive line gives him barely any time to throw. That's a problem here, ladies and gentlemen. It's still the main story of why Washington is 3-4. So for this, I'm going with the Eagles. They're going to have a sack sandwich. For the afternoon slate of games, we have the Cleveland Browns at 4-2 taking on the Seattle Seahawks at 4-2. So the Browns, even though they got the win in controversial fashion last week, their quarterback room is starting to become very murky because Deshaun Watson, he didn't finish the game in Indianapolis, and there's starting to be murmurs about does he really want to play in Cleveland? Does he really want to go out there and play? So I don't know. I really don't know what's going on with the Deshaun Watson health situation now. It's every week is a news story out there. So now you have PJ Walker is going to go out there and start another game for the Browns. And his play, because where he is at now, it's very on and off. But nonetheless, I mean, he does what he does. He does his job. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's PJ Walker. And speaking of Cleveland, they're unrelated. Just get this out of the way very quickly. They're apparently in the running for a SummerSlam next year. What the fuck? Of all places, the Skid Marks land? Really? Yeah, let's have a SummerSlam in Cleveland, and let's make our bid by going out to Seattle to face the Seahawks. Really? The Skid Marks, WWE, the Skid Marks. Yeah, maybe this is why wrestling is the drizzling skid marks. All right. Anyway, for Seattle, they're facing perhaps their toughest test of the season in the form of the Browns' top-ranked defense. So, Geno Smith in Seattle's offense, they got some hands filled, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm not sure if Geno Smith is going to be up to the task, but we will see. I'm going to go with the Browns in this game. The Baltimore Ravens at 5-2 take on the 1-6 Arizona Cardinals. And there's not really a lot to say about this game because Josh Dobbs and Arizona are pretty much crashing down back to earth at this point. And Arizona's just basically waiting for Kyler Murray to return, and evaluate him because everyone's getting injured. Like I said, Josh Dobbs he's trying, but it's just everyone's seeing for who he is. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Ravens, they're coming off that big win against the Lions where the Ravens offense finally came out, and they're looking to carry over that success into the desert on the road, and maybe they can explode even more. So I'm going with Baltimore. The Kansas City Chiefs at 6-1 take on the 2-5 Denver Broncos. A rematch of week number 6 on that Thursday night game where the Chiefs, they did what they needed to do. Not a pretty game, but the Chiefs, that's pretty much their story once again for this year. Continue to find ways to win. And for Denver, even though they beat the Packers barely, their offense is still in need of a spark, really desperately needing a spark. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Then we have the Cincinnati Bengals at 3-3 taking on my San Francisco 49ers at 5-2. As always, I'll be having my own dedicated video previewing this game. But for now, the Bengals, coming off the bye week, they're hoping for a near healthy Joe Burrow, if he's not fully healthy from that calf injury, to make a full turnaround of their season. Sure, things didn't start off great, but hey, they're at 500 and they're ready to make that push again to being near, if not at the top of the AFC. Meanwhile, for my 49ers, they're kind of in serious trouble, especially defensively because they've had 2 straight awful performances. And it looks like Brock Purdy is going to play with if he can pass concussion protocol, but if by miracle chance he cannot, Sam Darnold season, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll see with the news that's going to come out whenever that is. So either way, I hate to do it. Go with the Bengals. Then we have the Sunday night football game of week number 8, and this is criminal in of itself, ladies and gentlemen. And why does the NFL do this? Why does the NFL love to do this so much? Why do they love to torture us? Why do they make us love to cry, get on our knees, and just make us weep? I don't know. And this is like one of those matchups that makes us want to do that. Or either that or make us change the channel to one of the NBA teams that's in our area. And that is the Chicago Bears at 2-5, taking on the LA Chargers at 2-4. Bears football versus Clippers football, ladies and gentlemen. The NFL really wants us to suffer this primetime atrocity this week. It's a Halloween scare of our eyes, ladies and gentlemen. So the Bears, they're gonna trot out backup Tyson Bagent, who did really decent against the Raiders, but I mean it's not saying much because it's the Raiders and they're trying out their own backup quarterback, Brian Hoyer. More on that in a bit, ladies and gentlemen. So Tyson Bagent's gonna start again because Justin Fields is still nursing that dislocated finger. Meanwhile, you have the Clippers. Chargers. The real Clippers played this week, by the way. And yeah, they're starting to implode even more, and that includes Justin Herbert. And I mean, is there really more to say about the Clippers? There really isn't. I mean, there's no disrespect to Justin Herbert, but he kind of starting to have that Clippers syndrome. They start to do well in the first half and then do bad in the second half. So they let that Chiefs game slip away from them. And if they somehow fuck this up against the Bears, I really don't know what to say about this team. I really don't. They should have fired Brandon Staley when they could. So I'm going to go with the Chargers. But I don't know at this point. I really don't know with the Clippers. The Monday Night Football game, another primetime crime that the NFL had decided to inflict on us, infect us with. And as the Las Vegas Raiders at 3-4, taking on the 5-2 Detroit Lions. I mean, this is not a crime on the Lions, but this is what it was given to them. And that is the Raiders. The Raiders, ladies and gentlemen. But at least for the Raiders, they're expected to get Jimmy Garoppolo back from his back injury. So that's something. But might not be enough to overcome a very angry Detroit Lions team that got humbled and now are looking to bounce back from that big ass whooping that they received in Baltimore from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So, yeah, get your prayers ready for this Raiders team. Potentially, I say potentially because you never know. Any given Monday, every given Sunday, maybe you, I don't know. Maybe you should watch this over Monday Night Raw though, because that pre-Halloween go-home show for Crown Jewel is looking like ass. But at least you can see the Lions. Maybe put on a pre-Halloween butt whooping over the black and silver, the silver and black. So I'm going with the Lions. So anyway, those are your Week 8 picks. My preview of the slate that is to come this pre-Halloween weekend. And let me know who you're going with, who you're going against in the comments below. But this is DylanLasagna signing out of another week preview of the 2023 NFL season. And as always, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And like I said, why does the NFL have to do this to us? This primetime slate is ass this week. But maybe it won't be when the actual results come. But we'll see. But anyway, until next time, peace out.